1.4, 1.5 million people in this remarkably diverse community. We know that this regionally, statistically, from a crime severity index, is still one of the safest regional municipalities in Canada. However, that being said, the confluence of factors which cause problems in our communities are ones that require responses that are sometimes above and beyond our capability of often deploying officers and investigators to. Violent crimes and violent individuals and the nature of these incidents require a significant amount of resources and the skills to investigate them. And behind us, we have some of the 3,000 members of our organization that daily intend to mitigate risk in our community. Public safety is number one for Peel Regional Police Service. Today's provincial funding will help towards our comprehensive response to mitigating and addressing violent crime, specifically gun and gang crime in our community. This government funding will afford us the opportunity to continue to move forward with complicated investigations which demand many, many hours investigating violent crimes while continuing to implement community safety issues and prevention issues in various initiatives. Working together with all levels of government is critical to both preventing and solving violent crimes. Public safety and this community's well-being are number one priority for Peel Regional Police. I'd like to thank the provincial government and the Premier and the Solicitor General, Attorney General for their efforts to continue to support us. We look forward to enhancing our response to this serious risk in our community, to further our vision here in Peel as being a safer community together.
Gangs are finding new ways to recruit members, new ways to attempt to avoid detection. It's a real problem with real victims, and it shatters lives, it robs families and communities of the chances they deserve to grow. While the problem is growing, it's growing in scope and complexity, it's our job as justice partners to fix it. That's why we've come together here in Peel and in communities across Ontario to escalate the local fight against gangs who prey on young and vulnerable people. Across our government, we are determined to keep our families and communities safe by supporting local police and specialized prosecutors. One example is the intensive bail review teams that we've put in place. The intensive firearm bail review teams we know will make a real difference for the safety for everyone in our communities and everyone who calls this region home. We're, of course, led this critical work by our Premier, who has immediately recognized the urgency of the issue and who has pressed the Ontario government, all of us, to bring real concerted action. He moved right away to give frontline police officers more tools to crack down on organized crime and gun violence and gangs right across the province. For Ontario to prosper and grow, people must feel safe. They must feel safe in their homes, in the streets. Local businesses must feel safe. It must feel safe at local arenas, at our parks, in all of our community spaces. The Premier has been crystal clear about this. This is his priority.
I absolutely love our police officers, and I'm proud to say 3 out of my 4 daughters are with police officers, so there's my bias right there as well. I have so much respect for what you do, your long hours that you put in every single day, and you put your lives on the line for each and every one of us every single day. You're always looking out for us, so our government is doing everything we can to make sure we look out for you. And make sure you have the tools and the resources you need to do your job and keep us safe. Today, we're bringing the fight against guns and gangs in Peel Region. We're investing over $20 million to strengthen community policing, to prosecute even more offenders involved in firearm offenses. This money will help our police officers work directly with the members of the public to improve safety. It will also allow our officers to target organized crime at its source and work with prosecutors to lock up the criminals. Today, this investment is part of our government's $195 million commitment to community policing across our province, and part of our provincial-wide strategy to fight guns and gangs, to bring violent criminals to justice, and make sure we keep our streets safe. I know these initiatives are a top priority for the Chief It's something he's been working on for many years, including his time over at Halton Police. Too many of our young people in Peel Region are being recruited and preyed on by these gangs. So we need to intervene early to stop the violence. Today's funding will give police additional support to go after the dangerous criminals and put them behind bars where they belong. And a message to the criminals that are watching us now: we're coming for you, we're going to find you, we're going to catch you, and we're going to lock you up for a long time.
Since coming to office in June 2018, we have made significant investments into community safety and victim supports in Peel Region. This includes funding to put more police officers on the street through the Ontario Safer Communities 1,000 Officers Partnership Program, keeping streets safer from impaired driving by enhanced regular ride spot check activities, protecting children from online exploitation through the provincial strategy to protect children from sexual abuse and exploitation on the internet grant. In addition, $71.8 million has been invested to enhance security and expand and modernize services to the public at the Brampton Courthouse. Thank you, Attorney General Downing. We continue to work to strengthen public safety. Some of the community safety issues we face today are radically different from the ones we faced even a decade ago. Addressing gun and gang violence remains a top priority for our government, which is why we launched a comprehensive guns, gangs, and violence reduction strategy. Our government has made a commitment to come down hard on gun and gang violence. We also know that some of the best solutions to prevent crime and keep our communities safe are developed locally, which is why our government will invest $195 million over 3 years to help police address community-based public safety issues through the province's Community Safety and Policing Grant Program. $181 million from this program, or over 90% of our investment, will go towards tackling local priorities as identified by police services and their community partners. After all, these are the people who know best what they need to support the safety and well-being of our communities. Today, I am pleased to announce that Peel Region Police will receive approximately $17 million through the Community Safety and Policing Grant to support this community mobilization program.
Well, what a great day for Peel, and what a great day for the Police Services Board. You know, it's an honor to welcome Premier Ford here. When he and I first spoke at AMO, we're going back several months now, you got to appreciate the problems and the challenges this government had. I'm reminded, Premier, as someone that's nonpartisan, I've never been a member of a political party in my life, in my 4th decade of politics. You got to appreciate the situation people find themselves in. And when Peter Bethlen-Falvey wrote that great treatise in the paper that says the government spends 40 million more a day than comes in, well, that's a challenge for all of us. And what I said to the Premier was, we're here to help you work against that challenge, but we've got to do it together. And I've got to tell you, in the region of Peel, Premier, in the last little while, we've had meetings with your Solicitor General to talk about this funding. I tell you, Sylvia Jones is the duck on the water. It's an analogy I use with the chief all the time. I think she's just calmly going about her business, but those little flippers under the water are moving, and look what you've brought us today. So you've been a real champion for Peel, and we're very, very grateful to you. We've met with all sorts of ministers right here in Peel. I just recently, Premier, in our offices, Minister Sakaria, to try and get rid of some red tape in government. We met with Minister Tabolo, all the work that he's doing on the health file, the mental health file. We had Minister Clark here several times talking about making government leaner and more efficient. And most recently, Jim Pine to talk about the healthcare services and what we can do. So, Premier, this great opportunity that I can thank you for listening. We still have a lot of work to do. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree, but at least we listen, we talk, we work together, and marvelous announcements like this come from it. So, Premier, thank you very much for being on the right track. We are grateful to you on behalf of the Region of Peel and the Police Services Board, and we have much more work to do.
One of the first tragedies that I saw after taking over as mayor in Brampton was November 13th. Jason Remekishan was shot and killed on the 410. Bullets do not differentiate between innocent bystanders and gang members. In this tragic case, they got their intended target a week later. Gang activity is a real problem throughout the GTA. And I want to thank the Premier. I want to thank this government for recognizing this challenge. And we have the best among the best police officers in the country. We've got a Chief Nishan who is brilliant and dedicated, a workaholic towards keeping our community safe, but they need the resources to do their job. I'm a big believer that with the resources, they can do wonders in keeping us safe, giving us that peace of mind. You can have everything else in your community, but if you don't have peace of mind, it's a giant hole. And if we give them the tools to do their job, they will do so honorably. And this is an important step towards public safety. And I want to personally thank the Premier for hearing our call. I think we've been asking about gun and gang funding repeatedly over the last year, and it's so reassuring to know we have a provincial government that has our back on this battle against gun and gang activity. Because it's not a Toronto problem, it's not a Brampton problem, it's a GTA-wide problem. I have an interesting lens as Mayor of Brampton, as a member of the Police Services Board on this challenge, and what I've learned over the last year is never underestimate how sophisticated gangs are. Never underestimate how they appreciate where there is diminished resources, where there is a more, unfortunately, convenient place to engage in this activity. Well, with this help, you're helping ensure that Peel Region is not a convenient place for another targeted shooting. You're ensuring that we have the tools to fight this insidious activity.
The reality is that we face some real challenges here in Peel when it comes to curbing guns and gang violence. Challenges that over the course of the next year and beyond will require all levels of government to step up and to take action. And I want to thank the province for doing just that, and recognizing that we cannot do this alone, and that there is still much more to do. 69% of the guns seized here in Peel were illegal and have been smuggled in from across the border in the United States. We are seeing more innocent teens like Jonathan Davis getting caught in the crossfire and losing their lives as a result of guns and gang violence. We are seeing more semi-automatic weapons, and as a result, more rounds being discharged in our streets. We know that gangs don't respect postal codes. And over the past year, we have seen more violent crimes spilling over our borders, including along the 400 series highways. And in response, we've seen our police forces, Peel, Toronto, York, and beyond, working together like never before to get criminals off the streets. By no means am I trying to paint a grim picture here. Solvency rates amongst Peel police are amongst the highest in the country. And when you look at the statistics, Mississauga remains one of the safest cities in Canada, and we're going to keep it that way. But we can't ignore the spike in gang violence, the evolving complexity of many of the investigations, and the changing landscape of gang violence, drugs, and of course, human trafficking. From how these organized crime and drug rings operate to the technology that they use to evade police and avoid detection. I know Mayor Brown joins me in calling for targeted investments into a guns and gangs unit for Peel, similar to that of the growing urban cities like Toronto and Ottawa. This is something we don't just want, but we need here in Peel.
It's a very serious issue, not just here in Peel, right across the GTA. gangs do not look at borders, and where they're hitting people too often, sometimes an innocent bystander is hit by a bullet and sometimes they're killed. And it's not acceptable. So we came together to the table with the Chief of Police to see what we can do to help combat that.
We have said again and again we need the gun and gang funding that Toronto receives. So the fact that that has been recognized is positive, and I know our police will use these resources appropriately.
So we've announced today $20.5 million in funding for the Peel Regional Police to put more boots on the ground in the community, but also to go after those perpetrators that are preying on our children. They're selling drugs to our kids, and they're getting them into very violent crimes. So we want to make sure that we have this money for our police to go out and work inside the community to look at and where it's happening, and to put those people behind bars that really are causing a lot of grief for the community.